No, I am gonna remove the countdown because it never works right. But I am just posting a link to it, and then we will go over. What'd Liana say? Keon. See, I've heard people say it. Keon, Sion, Raising Cane. All right, three. Hold on, let me do the transition. I'll get. Whoa, what's going on? Whoa, Crix, you're sideways. Okay. All right, three, two, one.
Let's go. All right. Hello and welcome to the GCW podcast covering all things related to the Galactic Civil War LARP event, a sci-fi airsoft event set in a galaxy far, far away. I am your host, Hus'qi, joined by my co-host, Mark.
Hello.
And tonight we have the very special guest, Athens, who plays the charismatic Crix Haran.
How's it going?
And as well as the enigmatic lore master, Raincloud.
Hello!
On today's episode, we will be doing our Echoes Resolve debrief, and later on we invite you to get in the Discord chat and be ready to raise your hand and tell your story. All right, let's jump right in. So Echoes Resolve was, what was it, the 6th total event? Was it the 4th mainline LARP event? Am I correct in that?
Yeah,
Sounds
fourth
about right,
mainline LARP.
Okay.
I think it was 6 total.
Right
Well,
on.
if you count the other planetary garrisons, I think it's 8th.
Yeah.
I think there was.
How
What
many
was it? 2 planetary
garrisons have
garrisons?
I think we've only done one planetary.
Was it just the
We've
one,
had,
or did they get 2?
And then
done?
the
It was just the
Florida
one?
event, but that really wasn't us, other than they used our framework.
Hey, I was there. I count it.
You count
I
it?
count
Well,
my
he
events.
counts it. He was there.
That would
and
be
he's
8.
staff now, so technically
Yeah.
staff was there.
Yeah.
There you
No,
go.
Justin
was there.
Yeah, Justin
there
was
as
there.
well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, does that count?
We had the Imperial HQ there, but Echoes Resolve. It's been, what is it, 2-3 weeks now?
About a month.
A little bit more than that.
It's been too long. I miss it so dearly.
I got to sleep.
It was our second LARP event at The Rock in Bolivar, Missouri. It was our 3rd total event there. Man, what a blast! Starting off, what a blast!
For sure.
Let's jump right in and let's talk about how it went. How do we think it did? How it performed when we hold it up to our repertoire so far? Personally, I think this was the best one yet. I think we do better every time. I think Echoes Resolve was a lot of new ideas and game improvements coming together in a really awesome way. And the things that maybe didn't work, I feel like we still learned a lot from. So I'm curious, how do you guys think it did? And we'll jump right in. Crix, how'd it go, man?
So for my faction, obviously I'm leading the Huts.
Yep.
Our goal in this was to be a truly neutral faction throughout the events of Echoes Resolve. And I think we did a really good job of doing that. It didn't seem like we had many enemies. Our one major opposing faction was the Perlas, who were there to enforce the law. And being an outlaw, it was natural we would be combating against each other. And so with that, our faction goals were to offload hypermatter rocks and to buy spices. And so I will say during that we had some other side goals, but as far as those things, it went really well and our players had a
Awesome.
lot of fun.
Now, this was the first event where we had a Hut faction. Is that correct?
We had Hut,
Presence.
small
Good
stuff. I was at Fate's Grasp as well, but it was the first time we were more unified and had an actual. We had, I want to say, 3 almost full squads of Hut players.
Wow.
I will say
is
that
the
our
largest
old
ever.
outlaw faction has turned into the Huts. Is kind of
Right.
the
Yeah.
continuity of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the first event, which also took at the Rock Survivors Endeavor, we had only 3 factions. There was no unaffiliated. We had Rebels, and we had Empire, and we had Outlaw. It's kind of cool to see the Outlaw faction make a return in the form of the Huts. So that's awesome. I'm glad you guys could be there, Crix. Do you have any plans to be at future events like what's upcoming? Battlefront Mouston.
So for Battlefront Mouston, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make that one. If we can, I'm gonna try. Obviously, stop calling me Cricket, by the way, in the chat. Um, but as far as the future RP events, that's where I want to put my main focus in with the huts, and continue to do illegal activities.
Right on. Well, I was our rebel representation this event. Our mission, our goal was following our success at Survivor's Endeavor. We had kind of established a listening outpost on the planet of Bolivar that we wanted to maintain and defend. So, with the Imperial presence, we were arriving on the planet, we were tasked with defending 3 uplink stations, so we could, kind of maintain that listening outpost. Now, technical issues are going to happen. We can't do much about that. We're playing with technology and systems that are still in development, and we're taking them to extreme conditions. We're pushing these things to some of their limits. So, some stuff is going to happen that's out of our control. But I think it still worked from that rebel perspective of getting to defend an area through means outside of just sticking the barrel of your gun out the window. Not sure some guys do that, but I personally had a lot of good interactions just trying to subtly guide people away from the rebel hideout in town. That was kind of our story. And then on day 2, we were tasked with either capturing or destroying an Imperial uplink station that had been established on the top of this big hill. So we got to have this epic battle. It's always a good time being a rebel. Always. Mark, what was the what was the Empire's goals and objectives at Echoes Resolve?
So the overall goals and objectives, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't hang out around camp a whole lot and kind of get that from our leadership. But I know early on we were tasked with securing a hilltop and establishing comms relay, and then to push down into the major city, conduct a census, and kind of link up with Perla, the local, basically, police force. Beyond that, I wasn't really super privy. I kind of was doing some special stuff with my own little squad, as I was kind of operating as the Special Forces commander for that specific division of the Imperial Forces. But it was a blast, man. We had a little hiccup with just spending a little too much time in one spot for a while, but once we kind of pushed beyond that, it was a lot of fun. The Imperial Toll Road was hilarious. I loved that. Some players weren't super happy with staying in one spot for so long, and then I told them stay in one spot again, and I was like, well, hold on, turn this into a toll road, make money off of it, shake people down, do the Imperial thing, make it fun. And when I came back and checked on them later on, they were having fun collecting tolls. But yeah, I agree that this event, I think, as a whole, was one of our best, for sure. If not the best one so far. We toyed with some new features with heat and whatnot, some hiccups there, but I think we, at least on paper, theoretically have those hiccups worked out in a way to kind of mitigate the negative, or I guess the parts that are not in our control, that are in the player control, because we can build the system, but if the players don't use it, then it doesn't work. But I think we've got most of that figured out. But yeah, man, I had a blast. I had an absolute blast. Ooh, I don't have audio from you. What is going on here? This is weird. Technical difficulties. Give me 1 second.
on the back end as we've ever had. Even with the failures that happened, they were mostly able to be smoothed over by the people on the field to fix things and make things fun for the most part. And so I think it was the best so far.
Right on, right on. Now, with Echoes Resolve, we introduced some new stuff besides just the huts. You know, Mark mentioned the heat system, and I'm curious, how do you guys feel about that heat system? I didn't get to engage with it nearly as much as I wanted to, and I think a lot of Rebels would say the same. But from what I saw and from what I felt, it worked really good. My biggest feedback is the Empire needs to be a bit quicker about getting that tape out. For those that are unaware, the way the system works is that when any player of any faction really does anything that would be considered illegal, a crime, or immoral, things like, you know, killing Imperials or murdering players or stealing can gain you heat. Any officer of any faction, as well as any Imperial, can give heat. Now, the regular Imperial trooper will only have one heat band at a time, whereas someone like a officer might have an entire roll of tape which they can dish it out. Heat goes up to 4 levels, with each level carrying a heavier penalty with it. The way you pay this penalty is a bounty hunter who is looking to make money is going to see that heat band on you, and he's going to know you're a payday. So that was kind of the heat system. It was a new thing this event. It had been trial ran at Florida. So, you know, Crix, you were our resident outlaws. How did the heat system affect you guys, and how did you interact with it?
So funny enough, most of my hut players doing the intentionally malicious activities were able to evade heat bans quite efficiently, because most of their acts were they did their job well. They went unnoticed.
Awesome.
And the few players who did get heat came, and I saw quite a few actually come by, and they stayed with Ronan at our casino, and they worked off their heat. They played a few hands of Sabak. They stayed, they chatted, they hung out with us. It was pretty awesome. So overall, I do think maybe adding a little bit more ways to get heat would kind of help up the stakes a bit more. But the stakes, once you have heat, are quite high and well enough to warrant you know, the time spent out just laying low.
Off the top of your head, do you know the penalty for level 4 heat if you get brought in by a bounty hunter?
I can't remember the exact. I know it's over 1,000 credits.
It's something like 1,200 credits, isn't it?
Yeah, 1,200.
Liana's saying
sure
1,600.
I'm pretty sure Liana's right. 1,600 is what I remember too.
Yeah, I know we went with
Yeah.
like a multiplication of 2 per level. So what did it start at? 200, right? Level
Yes.
1? Yeah, so it's 2, 4, 6, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know, 1,600 credits is about the upper end of what some players will make in an entire like Saturday of play.
Yeah.
I don't know the current blaster
So-
shop prices, but that used to be the shop of, or the price of a cheap blaster at the
Oh,
blaster shop.
Yeah, a 1,600 can buy you like an SE-14.
Yeah,
that
is not a joke. That is a hit to the bank. But
that's
I
what it looks like in
agree.
your hand.
Yeah, I agree. The ways to get heat, I think, needs to be expanded. I kind of pitched that to the rest of the staff team. I think that any like official, not like official as in like officially part of the event, but like official as in like police, military, stuff like that. Those kind of factions, if you kill them or get caught by them, that should give you heat. So on-duty bounty hunters, Perla, the Imperial Army, stuff like that. Not just the Imperials. Because, I mean, really, Perla is local police. Bounty hunters are essentially like court-sanctioned marshals. So all of those would have extreme consequence for fighting.
I thought Perla could give heat.
Perla could give you.
Perla could.
Perla was some of the did, and I know Cal and Ben were carrying heat tape, but that was it.
Yeah.
As far as rebels go, which makes sense.
Yeah.
From a perspective, only rebel officers would have heat, but I think
it
Perla
would
was
almost be kind of cool to give like 2 different types of heat. I think we're getting into like the water's too deep at that point, but like heat with the Empire and heat with the rebellion. You know, necessarily doing things that hurts the Empire, getting you heat. I don't necessarily think should get you in trouble with the rebels. So that might be kind of cool.
But rebels aren't bounty hunting, you know, not by and large. So,
but if you
I think
did something that
more of
got you like a
system.
blue heat band that showed like, hey, you did something against the rebels specifically, that'd be kind of cool. But I think we're getting into like the water's too deep. Let's set the core system in stone first. But I think that's kind of an interesting.
Because really, this system exists, one, to discourage murder hoboing, and two, to kind of reinforce the bounty hunting. So, you know, as an Imperial, if you see a guy with heat, it doesn't really matter how he got it, but now you have that mental note of like, be careful with him. He did something.
Yeah.
Because if only 2 rebel players out of the entire 50 are carrying heat bands to give out, then, you know, and you didn't, as the Empire, give it to him, you know, he's still some kind of a threat. So, but how many Imperials are bounty hunting? How many rebels are bounty hunting? Really, not many. So, I think the system exists so Perla and the, you know, any security or police force knows, you know, almost like a bolo, a be on lookout.
Yeah.
You know, you can think of it as a reputation system, really. You have a reputation, like when Cad Bane walks in a room, everybody from every faction knows that's one bad dude. You don't mess with Cad Bane. So think of 3 Heat as your reputation as a bad dude. So I think the system works well. I do agree that giving it out should happen more. Now, if you don't know, the way as a rebel that we would get most of our heat was tapping out Imperials. So when you tap out a player is when you would get the heat, and they had it was 10 seconds to tap somebody out, and they have that 10 seconds to put it on you. Officers could kind of chase you down. They could put it on you for whatever reason they saw fit. I think could Perla just kind of give it to you if they felt like it? Because I think for the Imperial,
yeah, mostly like if they got tapped out, or if you were caught like tampering with data pads or stuff that you weren't supposed to, stealing an item, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like as a police force, they were able to do that. But most of it was for getting tapped out.
Yeah. And so that's, you know, if you're a rebel that's just ambushing every Imperial, you would only get the heat when you go to actually finish off that kill and like to physically put it off you. So if you're fast or they're not ready, you might not get it. Like in my case, I would tap Imperials out and they just weren't ready with the heat band. So 10 seconds have come and gone and they're still trying to get it out of their pocket. So I think it would be cool to see a system where maybe some kind of way that we can have the heat bands be put on quicker, because the little engineer tape we were using, that stuff is not tie on easy. They would fall off.
And that's why day 2 we made an addendum. I know some people they weren't aware of this, but there was no longer a time limit. If you tapped out an Imperial or Perla, it was you had to let them put the heat on. There was no more, can I finish you before you can get it out? Because we just never had a chance.
I'll tell you my problem with that right now is a situation I ran into directly. If I'm in an active firefight, I am shooting, trading shots, getting shot at, and I'm tapping you out while I'm shooting, I can't sit here for 15, 20 seconds next to your dead body. I need to move. You know, I've spared the time to tap you out. Now I'm getting punished even more for tapping you out. And if you have a self-revive, I can't take the risk of just letting you sit there for as long as you want.
Yeah,
so I know there was times where guys are like, hold on, I don't have it tied yet. And I'm like, dude, I gotta go. We are getting shot at. I can't stand here. And I've held my hand on you for 15 seconds now. By all means, you're tapped out. So I think there does need to be a time limit. I know some guys don't like it.
I think that was a band-aid, just till we figure out something a little easier. Honestly, I think if you've ever been to like a baby shower, those little tiny like clothespin clips with like a flag on it, I think that'd be even easier. Just whip that out, clip it on their shirt, and go. I think something like that increases the cost, though, because that's the thing about what we're doing now. That tape, super cheap. If it gets lost, who cares? It's thin plastic, not a big deal.
I would love slap bracelets. That'd be so funny. A literal slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I wonder if we can bulk order a bunch of those or something.
That would drive cost up like crazy. And let's be honest, even those can fall off. People, you know, bad faith players might take them off and drop them. You know, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of situations where I'm walking through the woods. I have a heat band on me 1 second. I look down. It's just gone. It just fell off. I remember I walked up to a Perla guy and said, hey, I'm supposed to have a heat band. Can you put one on me? It fell off. So, you know, overall the system, I think, went well. Now, Raincloud, you Can you
I
tell us
didn't.
some behind the scenes details?
I personally had no interaction with heat bands personally. So I was just letting you guys yamble on this. Something we tried to do on the back end was create a few quests that were tied specifically to heat, as kind of like as a filling the waters type of thing, and that's definitely something that's going to be used a lot more in the future, where levels of heat will directly correlate to certain outlaw quests that are available to you. So if you want to go steal the payroll, you have to have more heat than not. But then again, also having more heat complicates it for you. And so having a team of notorious with non-notorious would be preferred. That's my little tidbit for y'all.
Which that does remind me, we had our brief intro, but we didn't say who we are in the game and what our roles in the game are. So
fair.
Raincloud, you are the lore master. You know everything related to Star Wars
Enthusiast.
ever. The lore enthusiast.
Lore Master
telling
is a
me,
stretch. Is a
you're telling me you
long
haven't
stretch.
studied every Star Wars book ever?
You don't know how much lore I get from the player base where they're like, "Hey, did you know about this?" I'm like, "No, give me write that down though."
But by and large, you are an NPC first.
Yep.
When on the field, you are also the mission maker, correct? Like that's kind
Yep.
of your job.
I create quests, the missions, the storylines, those types of things. I try to do my best to tie everything together in a format that if you've been to one event and you go to the next one, there is a through line for your character or for your faction that makes sense for you to easily kind of piece together. So I went to this event and now I can do this, and this event changes what we do in the future. Kind of what we try for anyway.
Right on. And you are an admin, of course.
Yes.
You play a billion different characters.
I only got to play 4 or 5 this last time.
But we're not gonna spoil the surprise and say who. We'll just get themselves. Crix, who are you? Who are you? What are you?
I'm Crix.
Where's your coat?
No other names. I can go put on the code if you guys want.
Nobody
but
knows
you
you
are-
without the coat.
You are an admin of the
I
Galactic
am an
Civil
admin.
War. Yeah,
And
you've been here from day one.
I was a player at Survivors Endeavor, along with Hus'qi, and yeah, I was not an admin at Survivors Endeavor, but after that I was asked to fill in at Ambition's Toll, and they decided to keep me around since.
Right on.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I got real good.
Well, I'll say I am Lieutenant John Hus'qi. I am a rebel, one of the first. I was at the first event. I was a player up until 2 weeks ago. I resisted becoming an admin up until it was undeniable, and I couldn't resist it any longer. I was pulled into the role. I've been a GCW player from the beginning, Survivors Endeavor, and I've not missed a single one except one. And I'll never forgive myself for it. But, yep, so I'm the baby admin, newest here. What's my favorite dog breed? Brother, you're not going to believe this.
German Shepherd.
Beagles.
Get out of here.
No, I don't think I have a favorite breed. I love dogs. They're all great. Now, Mark, who's Major Mark Tollivan?
Only the coolest and slowest high-speed operator to ever exist. So yeah, I'm
medium speed.
Medium speed, reasonable drag. Yeah. Major Mark Tollivan. I'm one of the Imperial admins, a founding member of the Galactic Airsoft Alliance, kind of the parent group that started the GCW. My kid's messing with me. Started the GCW events. I've been here since before the beginning, but I did not make it to the first event, unfortunately.
Ooh.
Yeah, boo. I was
so fun.
too busy having a kid, man. My girl got pregnant, and I kind of dropped out of the community for a little bit. But I was there in the really early days of contemplating even hosting an event. We actually started off. The idea was we were just going to be an airsoft team. We were going to have state chapters that would go to milsim events in Star Wars kit to recruit more Star Wars players. Really didn't start off as let's start a Star Wars LARP. So It's kind of
Yeah.
the journey with not where we the direction we started heading, but this is where we ended up, and this is better.
Dude.
This is so much better. We just didn't think this would be possible. We were like, well, what can we
Yeah.
do with Star Wars and Airsoft that's reasonable? Let's start a Star Wars Airsoft team with state chapters, and this is what it evolved into, beyond what we ever expected that we could pull off. So it's awesome.
How did you fire and miss and hit a completely different target? How did that happen?
Imperial, bro.
Yeah. Now, what's that 850 rep next to your name mean?
Yeah, so we have a good friend Mike, who's the owner of 850 Armor Works down in Florida. He is a armor and costume maker for a lot of the big costuming groups like 501st and whatnot. I reached out to him super early on about making some stuff specifically geared towards Airsoft, and kind of what got rolled into that is the Imperial Army kit. It was right after Andor came out. Andor, sorry, not Indoor. Right after Andor came out. Yeah. And it was a perfect storm. It's what it rolled into. And he was like, I don't really have a whole lot of intentions or have time to come in and advertise to your group. He's like, so how about I delegate that to you, and your event can keep a portion of the proceeds. And that's kind of where we went from there. And then I don't think a lot of his scout armor has ended up at the events, but I sold a lot of scout armor to the community, and we actually got his little scout program going where he now can produce scout armor. I know Crix bought some, I think, right? Were you one of the ones that bought a set?
No.
No, it was a few guys in your friend groups did, though.
Yes, yeah, my Texas guys.
Yeah. And it's super high quality, really lightweight, really durable stuff. And unfortunately, he's a little busy right now. They're kind of shifting gears with the company. So they're kind of like setting up a new building and shifting the way that they do things. So I haven't really been able to take any orders lately. But if you guys are in the market to get vacuum formed or even resin printed armor, DM me. Worst I can tell you is they're just busy right now. But usually I can hook you up and get an order set. And like I said, 10% of your order goes back into the event. So we benefit from our deal with 850.
Awesome. So that's who we are. I'm glad we could knock that out halfway through our second episode. Let's get back, stay on target. Let's stay on target. And our Echoes Resolve debrief. We talked about heat. We talked about our missions as factions. Let's get into how we felt the overall merge between combat and roleplay went. I think this is going to be a very big topic for a lot of players that feel that they do more of one than the other, and they want to do more of one. So, let's talk a little bit about how we balance both and how we try and do better about it. So, Crix, as the unaffiliated player, how do you feel the balance is? How is the percentage? How does that work for you?
Okay, so for me personally, when I first started, I was more of an airsofter. I had never been to any LARPs or anything like that, and so I definitely did a little bit more shooting. But as I have stuck with GCW, I found that I find the role playing way more fun, and I can talk my way out of gunfights. I can, schmooze my way into different other groups, and make my way to the Imperial base if I so please it. And just I feel I have a lot more freedom that way. Whereas if I was going to shoot everybody that I saw, I would just be making enemies, and I wouldn't be able to talk as much, and I would just be shooting, which just isn't my style anymore.
Right on. So you feel like that attending this event has made you less of a airsofter and more of a role player, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. GCW has spoiled me from regular airsoft. I cannot go back. It truly with people, talking about, you know, I want to go to this event. I want to go to this one, and I'm like, yeah, but can you earn credits at that event? Do you,
Right.
do
Yeah.
you have you got a thermal detonator from a shop in your game? No, I bet you haven't.
Or when everybody
Right
talks
on.
about the most effective, newest part on the market that can make your gun so good, and it's like, I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care. I run around with a pistol. I'm super disadvantaged. I really don't care. I don't care about
exactly.
being the straightest shooter in the event, man. It's just it's so much more fun to dress up and act goofy than it is to be the most effective player on the field.
Exactly.
That's what I love about the combat at GCW is it it doesn't often feel like a fight as to who's got the better kit, the better gun. You know, you can show up with a AAP, with a Galaxy WeTech. You can show up with a hater, and you'll still have a lot of fun. Just with the combat, you know, with the self revive rules and the way grenades work, and all the way all these systems come together and make, you know, make a firefight feel so much better, so much more interesting, just way different than how it would feel at a regular mill sim where it's just, you know, guys in army kit shooting their top of the line guns at each other. You know, here we have a fight starts because two guys had a hypothetical argument, and now, you know, there's all these dynamic systems as, you know, armored players come into play and players with scatter guns come into play and all this really cool stuff. It makes the combat so interesting. And that's really what I love about it.
Yeah, and what somebody said
you know,
in
for-
chat is they like it because it doesn't cater to the bottomless wallet guys, like some of the more
it doesn't.
hardcore mill sims. I mean, if you can dump $3,000 into a really hyped up HPA build, you're gonna dominate. I mean, here
Funnily enough,
you don't really
the
have
more
to.
you spend money on your costume,
The
the
worse
less
you
combat
get.
effective you are.
Yeah. And to get those
But that's
bonuses, you
understandable.
don't even need to spend
Yeah.
real money anymore because we got people like Kayan who sell armor for credits.
Kian.
Oh, see, I tried to remember how they told me to say it. Yeah,
He's
Raising
gonna get a
Cane's
thermal
Fried
jet in
Chicken.
your
He
jump
sells,
out, brother.
he sells actual plastoid armor now, for credits, and that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's awesome. Like, you almost, you don't care about being the most effective. You don't care about your costume being the best to fight in. You like, we encourage you to chase that costume that sucks, but looks really cool. And so we're gonna say, like with the Mandalorians, all right, your armor, let's be real, sucks to wear. It's hot. You can barely move. So, you know, here's resilience. You know, those scout troopers and those army troopers, that armor sucks to wear. You can't move as much. Self revive. So these are like really powerful perks that we encourage you to chase, not by being the sweatiest tryhard possible, but by putting that effort into your kit and showing up and accepting the fact that, like, none of us can take a knee super easy in this armor. None of us can climb a hill super good in these chest plates. So we're all standing out in the open, you know, doing the Han Solo. We're all just kind of right there, and that's what makes it so fun. Is that it's so, you know, we all fly casual here, in a way, and that's what just makes it awesome. And now, as a rebel, we always win. Obviously, we're the best fighters. We're the best shooters.
I mean, if I
We're
was
the best
running around in
trained.
khakis and a t-shirt with a vest on, I'd win too.
Listen, you can hate it all you want, but jokes aside, that's what makes it fun too, is that playing a rebel feels like a rebel because you're like, all right, we can't self-revive, so we're gonna hide in the foliage and wait to the most opportune possible moment, and if we mess that up, we're gonna turn and face a wall of Imperial fire that we can't fight back against because they're just gonna keep self-reviving and self-reviving and self-reviving until we run away. So it's the asymmetry in the combat that makes it the most fun. And that, you know, comes through in the role play really well too, where it's, you know, you might find yourself really not wanting for it to turn to a fight, because even if you have a blaster rifle that's really good, you know, the people you're role playing with, you are really encouraged to maybe talk them down a little bit, maybe help things end a little more smoothly. Or, you know, you could have a tough fight coming up, so you're going to head on down to the Mandos and you're going to role play with them for a while and say, can I hire you guys? Can I pay you some of these credits, in-game credits I earned to get you to come help me in this next fight? Now, Mark, has the I think all the Imperial players need you to represent them right here. How does the role play work for the Imperial soldier? How does the combat and the role play blend for our Imperials?
So, you know, both sides of it have been kind of frustrating in the past, and a lot really comes down to a lot of our role play is internal. When you come back to base and you're talking to the supply sergeant at the commissary and picking up stuff because we've got a guy that he's opened up his own shop at Imperial Spawn. And there's that, or you come up in between missions and you're talking to the commanders at the map table, or just between you and your squad mates. That's where a lot of our like core roleplay ends up happening. Because kind of the frustrating side of it is when you go to town, a lot of people have that real generic mindset of the Empire from Star Wars, just Empire wholly bad, so Empire always gonna be enemy. And then turns a lot of like the unaffiliated player base kind of leans more towards rebel aligned, which make your own political choices, right? But that's just kind of like a thing I would like to bring up is if you're going to play unaffiliated, try to go into the event with the mindset of like this is a gray zone. The rebels aren't entirely good and the Empire isn't entirely bad. And Perla is just universally annoying. Come into it with kind of that like middle ground mindset. Because ultimately we try to roleplay.
If there's a faction you want to shoot on site,
we like
it's Perla.
Like at the last event, we're sitting there trying to roleplay, and just a grenade fell to the ground in the middle of all of us, and we're like, we weren't even doing anything hostile. Boom, and we're all dead. Yeah. And that's the frustrating side of the Imperial roleplay. The fun side is, you know, when we set up a toll road and people are like, oh, you gotta give you credits to get through here, or oh man, I got a heat band, I gotta figure out a way to get around this. Stuff like that, really fun. Or walking through town and like, hey, you, show me your chain code. We need to document it. And they're like, you can see they're like kind of nervous, and it's just cool that you can actually get those reactions in a roleplay scenario. You don't see that with a lot of other events. Like, Crix was saying, it kind of ruins everything else for you.
And it really goes back to what Crix said about, like, you go from being an airsofter to being that role player. And that's something we're trying to encourage more within the Rebellion and the unaffiliated through the heat systems in Perla. It's like, hey, think less like an airsofter, and that's the enemy faction, let me shoot them all and kill them all I can. And think more like a role player, because, you know, your character hopefully values their life and doesn't want to throw it away in a meaningless firefight with an Imperial trooper that wasn't doing anything to you, you know. So
yeah,
you know, your character values their life, even though you as a player can just respawn unlimited amounts. And this goes for rebels too. It's like, before you go shooting someone, think, how will this affect the mission? So we're really trying to encourage that role player mindset and less of that airsofter mindset. And it just back to what Chris said. So
yeah, fighting's not always the answer. It's not always the best way to get through a situation.
It's really not. And I had so many great moments at Echoes Resolve. My most hype moments aren't when I was shooting people. It's when I was like acting as that rebel hiding in the bush, watching that fully armored squad of Imperials march by and thinking, I'd rather not make a sound. I'd rather not even burp. I better not blink too loud or I'm screwed. So those are always the best moments. You know, could I throw a grenade and kill maybe 3 of them? Yeah, probably. But then I'm going to get lit up and then my mission's gone.
Yep.
So, you know, Raincloud, you're probably the most fightingest, shootingest player here. I think you have the highest confirmed kill count of anyone in GCW.
Our local gunslinger.
Yeah. When are you going to start role-playing more, brother?
Right.
I don't know, man. I'm so into the fighting aspect of the event. I'm trying to remember the last time I pulled the trigger. Oh, yeah, it was as HK, and I think the gun didn't work. So... I'm a person who loves combat, too. I just don't play combat at the RP events. I am much more RP heavy. Probably you could tell that by what I'm wearing right now. But when I'll talk on the mission side of things, because me, RP all the way, all the time, but I am not afraid of combat. I love... It worked, yes, it did work for like the first 3 shots. After that, nothing came out of the barrel. But I play to tell stories at GCW events. I don't play to get a kill count. When I do, get on the field, which is not all the time. But when I do get on the field, I don't play for kills.
I'm gonna step
I
away
play
a second.
for the story. Go for it. I can talk. The story is the most important thing to me. The lore and stuff, and the overarching stories and the quests, and making sure other people are getting to tell a story. That's where I really have a lot of fun at. It's not that I don't like combat, because I'll go to a Milsim event still, and it's not quite the same as it used to be, because now I play a character even at a Milsim event. I give myself backstory and stuff, and that's mostly because of GCW. But I will also talk about the backside of why RP is important.
Please.
At GCW events, about the mainline ARP, and when I speak about the mainline ARP only, pretty much. At a mainline LARP event, you don't have to shoot. There is very, very, very few missions that require you to pull the trigger. You can complete your objective 90% of the time without firing a shot if you can RP it correctly. Because we try to encourage the roleplay in every aspect possible.
Yeah.
Because we want to try to leave the shooty shoot to the Battlefront events. You know, if players just want to go off and shoot for no reason, that's Battlefront. The mainline RP is for you want to nail down that story. Your actions have consequences. And we get better at that with every event. They have more and more actions, like the heat gets more important. So like even Liana got heat, which I found was awesome, and she tied it into her story. And so
About time.
So that's my take on it. Like if I came to this event as a player, if I ever showed up to the series as a player, I would show up without a gun. I would show up with the most basic kit, no gun, and just explore the world, because it's so much to do. The only times, like I said, I've fired a shot is mostly as HK, and I've picked up player weapons and returned fire as a Imperial once or twice. It's the only times I've pulled the trigger at a GCW event, and I've got so many RP stories to tell, and I know a lot of people are the same way.
Now let's clarify: you're not picking up players' weapons randomly, like you're looting them.
No, I'm taking people's that I like. Well, there was one time, I don't know whose it was just laying on the ground, but I picked it up and shot HK, then put it back. But I take that back. I did take Tristan's gun at the. I didn't know whose it was at the time, but there was a random pistol sitting on the barrel at the hut town when they were trying to damage HK, and then I found out it was Tristan's, and then I kept it and I used it on him.
Good kid. He's a good kid. Don't worry about it. He's a good kid.
Yeah. But yeah, shooting is not as important to me. The story is the important part, which is funny because I've never been to a LARP outside of GCW.
Really?
Yeah, me either.
LARP I've always wanted to try LARP, but I've never had the opportunity to do a LARP event. And so GCW is my only experience of it.
Yeah, I'm in the
same
same boat.
reckoning with you.
I've always wanted to try LARP, but man, I just can't get around how cringy some of the ones around here in my local area are. I can't. They get out there, man. But there's some of them, like the ones that Hus'qi and Justin and Jesse go to. Those look awesome. Like those aren't.
I've not been to yet. Let me clarify. I've not been to yet, but I'm planning on attending the following.
At least the ones that Justin and Jesse have been to, and they've sent me pictures of. Those look awesome.
Yeah,
those are like legitimate armor, legitimate sword, like not actual metal swords, but it's not, the pool noodles wrapped in the sock.
SDA, unfortunately. As we know, GCW is the peak. This is the end all be all. It doesn't get better than this. Everyone else should just give up and go home. And just come to us instead. Because I think the biggest takeaway from all four of us talking is that this is not a combat event. This is not a milsim. It's not it's competitive, but you can win without firing a shot.
You can win, and the other person can still win. When we talk about like asymmetrical warfare, none of the factions have the same objective. The rebels and the Empire are not fighting over the exact same point in order to win. They have their own objectives. They may coincide and have overlap, but the main objective will not. You don't have to beat up the rebels to win. You don't have to beat up the Empire to win. You will, inadvertently, you will come across them. They will be in the way of your mission, but they will not. You don't have to like. It's not like a control point, like capture the flag, like a major, like most are Milsim events. That's the way we build them for that reason. So you can
there's no like the Empire won
lose.
at the end of this event announcement because
No, there is none of that. Your faction can succeed or fail depending on their choices, not necessarily the enemy's choices.
It's personal to your faction. Just because the Empire faction came out on top doesn't mean the Rebel faction came out on bottom.
Nope.
Just means
they can still win their objectives because their objective markers are different.
You guys know this? There's a few movies that cover the things that happen in these events. It's crazy.
Not yet. We're not to that timeline yet.
Yeah, but no. At the end of the day, we all know how A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and all that
what
goes
is
down,
our
so.
where are we currently at in the BBY right now?
One
BDY.
Yeah, so
Or
we're around in the Indoor Season 2 era then.
Yeah. I just personally rescued Mon Mothma. That was me.
I saw him.
Look just like
yeah,
you.
he was right there.
He had a
But also,
ring
no
carrier
spoilers.
in
Also, we
his
can't talk about
arms.
Andor. This is not an Andor watch podcast. We're not going to talk about it.
That is in
Did
Rebels.
Mon smell nice? Ban him. Ban that weirdo from asking him.
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. That was-
Ooh.
Yes, you did. But I do want to talk about something that Skarga said earlier, which was the LARP component of GCW was really intimidating at first, and I think that's something we do need to acknowledge as well.
That's fair.
The one that's fair, but the flip side is like you don't have to role play the event either. If you are just interested in dressing up as a rebel or an Imperial trooper, and you just want to be that trooper and fight the good fight for the Empire, hey, you can do that. You know, you might.
And the LARP will come to you.
Yeah. LARP, you'll find yourself easing into it a lot sooner. Now, your missions aren't going to be go out there and shoot every rebel you see. You'll probably get told to go man a checkpoint or a watch post or something like that.
Yep.
But even if like the LARP's intimidating, the roleplay's intimidating, you don't want to talk to anybody. Empire really is the best way to go for new players in almost any aspect. Because even if you don't like role playing at all, and someone walks up to you and asks and starts role playing with you, move along, citizen. Move along, citizen. Move along, citizen. Just repeat that.
You can be the
Don't have to
dismissive
look at
jerk as the Empire.
Yeah,
You're on
any
character.
NPC will understand that you're probably not too interested. But it's worth noting too, you don't gotta talk in an accent. You don't gotta have a voice. You don't have to have a full backstory fledged out.
Unless you're Sloan.
Unless you're Sloan, then
Sloan has to have the
you
accent.
don't use the accent.
Yeah.
We
If
ban
he
you
shows
from
up
the event.
without an accent, yeah, no more tickets for you. I mean, you still have to buy the ticket. You just
Yeah.
can't show up.
Yeah. And Skarga's also saying that hiding under a helmet helps. So
It does.
Yes,
consider
yes,
that.
yes.
There you go.
So I'll hear this
it
from a
is-
lot of communities that involve covering their faces up, like 501st, even the furry community. They'll say, "Hey, I'm a super awkward dude, but as soon as I put this helmet on or this mask on,
Yeah.
all of my anxieties and social issues just go away because nobody really sees who I am. It's just a mask, a helmet, and my voice, and it makes things so much easier. You can really hide
And
behind your character."
Everyone
Yeah,
who has
absolutely.
anxiety should wear stormtrooper armor, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So,
So-
Crix, where's your stormtrooper armor?
Yeah,
I
where
heard
is your
you were working
stormtrooper
on
armor?
it.
Come on,
How's
man.
that project going?
Fix it and I'll wear it. Just build it and I'll wear it.
Actually, I think it's time for me to go.
Oh, you can't leave yet. No,
Hey,
Mark,
I'm
you're
working
still
on
right
it,
for
okay,
that.
guys. I'm working on Stormtrooper. All right.
Yeah. Helmets.
I put that Pathfinder helmet on, and I'm like the biggest psychopath known to man.
Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?
I can attest to the helmet thing because as HK, my face is completely concealed, and it makes your actions more animated because you can't see the facial expressions, which is which is fun to play as a theater kid. Also, it means that when something happens, you can't break character by smiling. So when someone's kidnapped mother comes out of the jail and refers to the crime lord as Dear Cricket, I can bust the biggest smile and not have to worry about breaking the stoic character.
I just hide behind the beard. I just go,
See, I'm the other way around. I got my helmet on, and I'm just mean mugging people and judging the hell out of them when they. It's like, really. That's how you chose to react. I'm not gonna let you know I'm judging you, but behind this faceplate.
Yeah. But that's another good way to do it too. Is if you don't want to wear a helmet but you don't want to talk, you can say a lot with a facial expression.
You can.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
can.
Just giving someone a if you don't want to respond or you just want to give them a mean glare
Yep.
or like a kind of a little giggle, you can say a lot with just a facial expression too if you don't want to go the masked helmet route.
Yep.
So tying this into our Echoes Resolve debrief, let's stay on target. I'm gonna need like a soundbite made of that clip on the Death Star run. Stay on target.
Do it. Do it.
But let's stay on target for our Echoes Resolve debrief.
Yep.
What I'm hearing is that while this is not a combat event, it's also not a forced roleplay event. We're not sitting around. Nice to meet you. I'm John Hus'qi from the planet Ferrix. Here's my backstory. Let me ask you an in-character question. Either. So it's wonderful, and I think Echoes Resolve was the best example we've had yet of you get out what you put in. What you want, you will find there if you are willing to look for it. We can't play the game for you. We can't hold your hand through everything. But, that's the beauty of this event is it has a little something for everybody. If you just want to go play cards for 2 days straight
Yeah.
and, sit there with a cool hat and
Yep.
sit in a cantina, you can do that. So it's awesome. Now, keeping in line with our Echoes Resolve debrief, having looked over some of the survey responses, I think a big thing we got was maybe looking at buffs for certain rules. And we can't say anything officially yet, any of the four of us, that is, but, I'll reveal the tiniest bit that some discussion goes into, buffing some of our armor rules, changing how those things work, because one thing we always see is that, especially at a field like the Rock. Now, for those that don't know, the Rock is a rock quarry. It is vertical. It is challenging. It's very difficult, especially in that armor.
The name is literal.
Yeah, the
rock,
name
yeah.
is literal. You are climbing up and down rocks the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the survey responses we get are very fair in that people would like to see some changes made to these armor rules. Maybe making resilience a little better. Maybe changing how self-revive works so combat at a distance isn't so much of a slog. Because that's one thing we do hear a lot too, is big battles can be a slog if it's not an easy path to access the enemy team. Like if you're having to climb up and down rocks to get to who you're shooting at, you probably can't get to them in a timely and safe manner to tap them out. So we want to avoid those long slogs. We want to avoid wearing armor feeling not worth it. So I'm curious if you guys have anything where, when we look at the terrain and we look at how difficult things can be, if there's anything you see that maybe we could change, maybe we could work on to avoid these slogs and to avoid these safety risks at times.
I can only really speak on Plastoid, and I think it's in a really solid place. I don't think there's a whole lot to do with Plastoid. Yeah.
How do you feel about a lot of the further responses saying that it self-revive in general, but Plastoid can really make that fight slow down and turn into a stalemate? Because there's no real attrition rate for self-revive.
I mean, I've never really had... I'm Imperial, so I'm not really on the receiving end of Plastoid all that much. But it's not like I'm ever like in a squad full of Plastoid guys, and then we just never can get routed. It really just kind of makes us stick around for a little longer, or makes it to where if the rebels are assaulting our position, they can't just shoot us and then be like, okay, we can move on. They need to shoot us, push into the building, and finish us off.
Right.
So, does it make an engagement last longer? Yes, but I don't necessarily think it makes it last longer in a bad kind of way. And if it is lasting longer, where like somebody's going down and coming up, going down and coming up, it's because you as the attacker, or you as the adversary, not necessarily an attacker, because it could be a defense attack, whatever. You're not doing what you need to do when you're fighting somebody who if they're wearing plate armor, they're gonna get back up. You need to make that choice. Is this I'm gonna get them down and I'm gonna dip out? Am I gonna get them down and push in? Like you need to decide how to come up to that situation. But like I really just haven't seen something where like there's a rebel with Plastoid and an Imperial Plastoid shoot each other, go down, wait their 2 minutes, come up, shoot at each other, go down, wait their like I haven't seen that kind of like cartoon-esque way of it playing out that I think some people have in their head.
Okay.
But I think like Plastoid having like consuming your Bacta, I think that takes it too far because then it's the same as the robot or the droid, right? And I don't think that droid should be anywhere near as good as actual Plastoid armor. Because Plastoid
agree.
sucks.
I agree.
And I don't think there's any way to nerf Plastoid to a point to where it just wouldn't make me want to wear it. I mean, I'm always going to wear armor.
I don't think we want to nerf Plastoid.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we want to nerf anything.
Well, I think anything else to it would nerf it.
Other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff.
Really?
Yes.
So let's clarify a few things first. The intent behind Plastoid is to make it so that when the person's wearing it, because it was really kind of made for the Imperial faction. The idea was that, stormtroopers, scout troopers, mud troopers, that armor specifically should be rewarded. And I think the original concept, the design was, you have this endless wave of stormtroopers. We can't actually portray an endless wave.
No.
But what we can do is make it so the guy wearing the armor can get back up a lot. So if you're shooting at him, it feels more like an endless wave.
Yeah.
And
it was slightly based off of lore. In the lore, it's described that Plastoid actually just knocks you out. Right. It disperses the energy across your body and knocks you out. And they say stormtroopers go down for like 30 minutes, and they typically wake back up. They still need medical attention, but they're still not out for the count unless it's like I think A280s and DL44s can punch straight through Plastoid, but the average blaster will just knock Plastoid users out. So that's kind of where we got it to.
Real world body armor.
Yeah.
Because like you get hit in the show with a bullet in body armor, you're still gonna like break a rib or something. Like it's, but you may be alive. That's the kicker.
So Mark, how would you feel about the change that when you're wearing Plastoid and you go down, you can no longer crawl or call for a medic? Because it seemed like that was what the vote kind of led to in the admin channel.
I'll tell you, that won't change my gameplay at all, because I cannot crawl in Scout Trooper armor. Some of the Mud Troopers, they can probably crawl. But I kind of think that Plastoid's self-regulating, man, in all honesty. Because the more you have, the faster you get back up. The more you have, the less you move. The Mud Trooper with a torso, shoulder bells, and a helmet, they're going to be so much more mobile than me with... I mean, Scout Trooper's already pretty minimal. Much more than Scout Trooper, and you're really not moving. A Stormtrooper would be miserable, in all honesty. The diaper armor, the full thigh, leg armor. Leg armor's really hard to move in. My first event, I wore Mud Trooper, the shin armor. That came off 10 minutes. It came off 10 minutes in because you couldn't even crouch. You couldn't squat.
You can't.
I'm standing up. I'm standing up and shooting at all times. And no, the Scout shin or the Scout knees, I can knee in them, but not really, not comfortably, not quickly. So I'm already at such a disadvantage with mobility that putting that like no crawling, it wouldn't affect me at all because I already don't move. Once I go down, I'm not moving. There's just no moving in that armor while you're on the ground. The Mud Troopers, it might affect them. So maybe if there's a Mud Trooper in the chat, when we bring up audience members, you want to talk, maybe that's something we can ask one of them. But
yeah, we'll get into that here very shortly. But I do want to clarify for people that you can insta-kill Plastoid users through thermal detonators. Echoes Resolve was the first event where we kind of had the rule change where a thermal detonator, sorry, I had a weird pop-up. A thermal detonator instant kills anyone, regardless of armor. You don't get a bleed out. You don't, nothing. That thermal detonator goes off and you go back to respawn.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that's one way to increase the value and utility of a detonator while still getting rid of that Plastoid. Because you can still tap out Plastoid users. If you catch them in their self-revive, you can still tap them out. So,
and a lone Plastoid user isn't a huge threat. It's when you have 3 or 4
Not
of
really.
them, and you down 2 of them, but the other 2 are still up. And then by the time you down them, the other 2 are getting up. That's when you get that force multipliers when you have multiple Plastoid users. And same thing with the Mandos.
Yeah.
You know, they can take headshots and they can take more shots to the body, but when they're by themselves or you catch them off guard, not a super strong target. It's kind of the same with Plastoid.
Gotcha. Well, you know, I do think Plastoid's in a good place, but I think it's something we're always going to talk about. And, you know, the story could completely change at Mouston, where it's a flat, easy to move around event. We might see way different survey feedback. So, you know, I do want to keep going on the survey stuff a little bit. You know, I want to ask you guys, if there's a specific thing at Echoes Resolve that you felt was done exceptionally well. I know that's a little bit of a question, but is there anything about Echoes Resolve that really stood out to you as being phenomenal? I'm gonna steal the cop-out answer, and I'm gonna say the kits. That's my answer. I'm stealing. Every event, everyone looks great, but you know, we've been slowly tightening those costume regulations down more and more. We've been enforcing our standards a little more and more every event. It's never a big jump. It's never anything crazy. But I think Echoes Resolve so far, it was just like, wow. I think this was the first event we did costume enforcement, where we had people at the walk-on point actually checking, and I can say we had to maybe stop and hit them to like 2 people, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm stealing that answer. You guys can't steal that answer. I already took it. So Crix, what was the standout about Echoes Resolve to you?
For me, it was just how much in the past we've had just a hard time keeping players focused on not just killing everyone for fun. And I think this time, Echoes Resolve did an absolute just standout job of having everyone even put in just a little bit of effort to roleplay more. And you know, most of the people who came up to me were talking and complimenting me and, you know, trying to schmooze me up, asking for jobs, and it just felt like overall this event felt way better for just role-playing purposes for all factions. And I'm not sure, it's hard from my perspective because I'm not part of those factions, but the players who came to me were the ones who were seeking out that role play.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. That's always true. Mark, what was the standout moment about Echoes Resolve to you?
You know, just from the Imperial perspective, just the way our faction works. The amount of growth that the faction has gone through since Event 1, from I've seen in pictures and heard from stories, to Ambition's Toll till now, has just been a steady increase. Like you said, with kits, with the in-character camping at this last event was pretty cool. I don't know, you made your way to the Imperial camp. It was pretty cool. Now, a lot of that was Justin and Jesse pushing that, but we had a lot of Imperial players. Big shout out, yeah. The boys.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of Imperial players that contributed to building up the Imperial camp and the in-character camping, and I want to see that continue to grow, because that is really cool. Yeah. Being able to go back to your base camp, and I think the Rebels and you guys did it too with the in-character camping. That's huge, because that's kind of the one downside to having to do this on airsoft fields is, you know, when the game's called at the end of the night, the field's just kind of done, and then what do? Go back to your tent? We want to see things. We want to see things continue to roll. We would really like to get this to just be a from start to finish continuous, no breaks, none of that. Like just roll through the night, go camp at your in-character camping. So that's the direction that I'm really liking it that we're seeing. Lore,
Mr. Raincloud, you know, you at the starport running things, but I think that's a good perspective to get on this.
The thing that stuck out the most to me in this event is a personal one, and I know Hus'qi is a part of this one. I presented a mission to Rebel players with the high stakes mission, and I didn't expect any of the Rebel players to volunteer for this mission. And every Rebel player around me volunteered, even with the knowledge that if the mission failed, their characters are erased from the story, like they're dead. And
Where's my operational updates, Raincloud?
I have been
Where's
working
my
all week.
operation of Fireburns? You better take a week off. Where am I?
I sent you some of the stats for fun. That was a cool.
I don't
moment
need
to me.
stats. I need to know who's dead.
It was just cool for me to see players take their achievements and put it at risk for a mission. I just thought that was kind of cool. I didn't expect any players to engage with that, so it was an interesting test.
And we have
there was a lot of
that briefing.
I hope so. I know
We're waiting on Carver to
Carver.
put it
I think
out.
he said his camera overheated, so we don't know how much of that, but it should be some
I
of
believe
it.
He said he got the full thing in the Rebel
Oh, did
Planning
he?
channel. He hasn't had a chance to edit it and put it out. So
Okay, sweet.
hopefully the rest of the player gets a chance to see how that went down and that slow, like, because you said everyone volunteered. I want to clarify, it wasn't at once.
No,
I asked the question, who's willing to volunteer, and I had my hand up, and one rebel, Patches, our guy Patches, he threw that hand up so fast, and then it was a slow trickle of like, well, I guess I'll go. Well, if he's going, I'm going.
Yeah.
Well, if both of them are going, I'll go. So it was like an "Oh, Captain, my Captain" moment where by the time it was all said and done, everyone's going. So that was really cool, and I think that's something we should implement into all aspects of play, not just rebels. I think it'd be really cool.
You guys were the guinea pig or that one.
Yeah. So Imperial players, be looking forward to the chance to gamble with your character's life.
It will happen. It's already planned.
So
the other thing that was interesting to me is we introduced a few ways of player donations into the game to kind of see how that would interact, where players can pool their monies and resources together to do something. One of them was at the gala on Saturday night. Players could pool resources together to help fund Back to Clinic, which will affect a future event at Bolivar.
In a natural roleplay, we
used
used that as a huge propaganda piece with people talking smack on the Empire. We're like, who was there raising all the money for the local hospital? The Empire. Yeah.
And so stuff like that was really cool. The Rebels did the same thing to help fund the pirates at helping them out with the mission. And so that was fun to see players pooling resources together to do a larger, bigger common goal. Those were cool to see. Seeing Perla out in full force is more than I ever hoped it would be. It was so cool to see that. That's why I'm repping them here with the ghost of Arthur. Not Arthur. The ghost of
Sky.
Sky. Sorry, been talking a lot. So it's fun to see all these the Hutts. Finally, Athens, the Hutts factions got to do Hutt things.
Oh yeah.
We've been trying to do Hutt stuff for so long, and the Hutts finally felt like their own faction. So I walked on the field one time as a regular dude, just a spaceport guy, and I got to go through the town. I got to deal with Perla. I got to go up to the Old West town, or the Hangover, and play out with the Hutts for a little bit. I got to go deal with the Mandos for a little bit, and then back in the town. I didn't get to do much with the Empire and the Rebels, just in passing, but it was great to go through and see the factions all interacting, and that is exactly what I want to see. Just the factions that are interacting, and it's not necessarily with a gun. They're not just sitting there and going, okay, well, obviously there's a Perla guy, I'm a Hutt guy, I'm going to shoot, or that's a Rebel, I'm going to shoot, or that's an Imperial, I'm going to shoot. I know everybody wants to shoot the Imperials, everybody wants to be the good guys of the story, but I was impressed and happy to see that there was a lot more just role play everywhere. No matter where I went, there was something happening. I don't know what it's like for the regular players, but everywhere I went, the one time that I entered the field, there was an active thing going on. If I was in the town, Perla were dealing with rebels being stupid, and not stupid, but doing things in town they're having to deal with. The Hutts were dealing with There was an Imperial Patrol that was there when I was there, so they were dealing with the Imperial
Yeah.
Patrol. I went to the Mando town. The moment I got to the Mando town, the Super Commando stuff's cooked off, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. And I went back up to the town, and they were all in kind of disarray, trying to figure out who was doing what. And it was just like everywhere I went. Now, granted, I have a very limited perspective. Stuff was happening, and that was exactly what I wanted to see.
Well, Raincloud, you should know that nobody role plays until we see you coming. Then we're like, oh, Raincloud's coming. We all
It
get
felt
up
like
and
it.
start
Yeah.
acting.
It kind of felt like it.
True.
Because I was, especially with the Mandos, I saw Liana just ran in at that one moment. I just gotten there, and all of a sudden this huge story beat was happening. It was like, damn. I'm gonna feel like the main
No
character.
curse words. You just used our one.
Oh, come on, man.
Dang it, Raincloud. Now we got to ban you from CW for a week.
Yes.
No, you just,
I'm
you can't
going
go.
to lay down in bed. Goodbye.
No, that's awesome. And I want to lead into our next question because you mentioned, the role play and the raising money for the gala at the gala. And Mark, you mentioned, the continuous role play through the night at the camp. So the next piece of the survey I wanted to go over was the nightlife at Echoes Resolve. It was a bit different this time because we couldn't have that continuous game going due to safety concerns with the Rock. So I'm curious, I left when the sun went down. I was tired and sunburnt and wanted to sleep in my bed at my hotel room because I'm a soft little rebel, I guess. Yeah. Shame
They
on
built that
me.
entire rebel camp, and you went to a hotel room.
Yup, and it was
We missed
awesome. It
out
was
all
AC,
the
got
fun
the
with
hot
the
showers,
chicks, man. Missed all the fun.
ate a
with the
hot
chicks.
meal. Yeah, you guys were sleeping the tick. So I'm curious, did you guys partake in the Hunter games? Did you go to the gala? How was that?
I
Crix?
did not, unfortunately, participate in any night activities. I was very tired. The Vornath Kato, not the Hangover, was probably the furthest point away from the entrance to the field. And so walking there and back all day had just taken a toll on me. So I needed to go and sleep, but I really wanted to have the Huts crash the gala. Didn't end up happening, just, but another just result of how the field is. And it's an awesome field, but at the same time, it's a brutal field.
It is brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We survived the rocks. That's saying something.
Dude, yeah, we survived.
Also,
Mark, how was
this
the
was
nightlife for you?
I didn't really have a nightlife as far as that went. While the Hunter games were going on, I was kind of having a little staff meeting with a couple of the other staff members, and then when it ended, we had our little end of day one meeting where we discussed some issues with like the heat system and whatnot. So didn't really partake in any like player activities, such as the life of staff. But
Yeah. I think having 4 admins on the Discord, we're not going to get some of the best perspective on
yeah,
the player side of things.
well, that's where bringing the players up kind of gives us that perspective here in a little bit.
Which I will say, that's what we're doing next. So anyone listening, if you have questions you want to put in any of the chats, if you want to get on Discord and raise your hand, we'll start bringing people up to either tell a story, give their perspective, say something they want to say. Just remember, this is a GPG rated radio show, and keep it short. We can't dedicate too much time to one person because we got a lot of people.
So if you're watching
so.
on YouTube and you are not in Discord currently, and you have something you want to say, come hop onto the Discord. We are sitting in the soundstage, so hop in if you have something to say. But
But while we wait for that, Mark, you want to continue on?
Yeah, while we were doing that little staff meeting, the Hunter games were concluding, and all the players kind of walked up afterwards, and the consensus was the night game was great. And I think there was some players and some more less Swarzy kits that had brought some night vision and all that were competing, and even with that night vision capabilities, I think everybody had a really good fair fight. I think there was an issue where some people off the field were shooting down into the Hunter games, but that was quickly addressed. Not entirely sure. I think I heard something about that, but from what I got, the players loved the Hunter games. That's kind of been every event. Players like shooting tracers at night. It looks cool. It's fun.
It does look cool. It is the most Star Warsy thing is that, as if you don't know, we require tracers for any night play. And that seems like an unfair barrier to entry. It's not. You know, night games at airsoft events can kind of suck because if you don't have night vision, you're just a target. But when everyone's using a tracer, oh, it's awesome.
I think that's one of the
so
most
awesome.
epic pictures that have ever come out of GCW. Is that Ambition
Yes.
Stole,
Yes.
Ben with his
Yep.
DC blaster shooting
He's
that
the
blue
most-
tracer. Awesome picture.
Yeah.
Photogenic dude ever.
Yeah.
Like every
So
picture of Ben is awesome. He's like the most photogenic rebel we got.
He looks
Dude.
fantastic. He's looked
For real.
fantastic from the beginning, and it just is awesome to see.
Yeah.
Raincloud, how was the nightlife for you? What did
So-
you partake in?
I did partake. I partook in the gala and a little bit in the hunter game, so I can show a little bit of light. So for the gala at the nighttime, we had this this party at the cantina that was part of the night game. That, you know, no shooting, no nothing. It was a place for people that wanted to just sit around and RP, play Kessel Sabak, plays regular Sabak, play bluffing, play all these other different games in the cantina with music and all kinds of stuff happening. At the same time, it was a Perla sponsored gala. Story-wise, they were trying to fund the formation, the creation of a proper back-to facility in Newfoundland because we didn't really have one. And so it was all about a fundraising for that, raising money and having some entertainment. We had the DJ there. They were playing music. There were games everywhere. We had people from different factions just chilling and talking, having fun. I personally, as the inspector, got to play Kessel Sabak with an unaffiliated and Ben, and I forget who was next to me, and I'm terrible. I feel bad now, but there was 4 of us, and we were all different factions sitting there playing in the cantina, just having fun. And then we reached the raise limit for the credits. So there was a completion goal, which started a quest the next day. And then afterwards, I headed out and I wanted to go to the 100 Games for a little bit. And right when the 100 Games were starting, me and 2 other people hopped up in one of the buildings and just started jeering and yelling at the 100 Games going on below, telling people that their aim was terrible and stuff. And we participated for a couple of rounds of that, watching the fights and being the crowd. Eventually, then I headed back and we had staff meetings and stuff until the wee hours of the morning. So I got to see it everywhere I was. It would look like they were players having fun. If they were in the cantina having RP moments and playing cards and stuff together, they were having fun there. Or they were in the Hunters game shooting each other with tracers and yelling back and forth and having fun there. That's what I saw for a little bit. I didn't see all the Hunter games because then I left and we were dealing with admin stuff for the rest of the day, night.
And
morning.
Raincloud, did you buy brownies?
Yes. I, as the Inspector Diggory Sky, purchased the plate of brownies for the cantina.
And for your
And-
effort, you were killed.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
You didn't even save any brownies for Crix around? Come on, man.
I had no idea who you were. So that's my opinion of the night game.
By the next day.
Yeah.
Did we actually pass
I
by?
died.
I forgot about that. I didn't remember if we came by each other or not.
I never saw Diggory Sky, so
You shot my escort.
I
Yeah.
didn't see it. So is it really my fault?
So that's my
I
opinion of the
should
night
never
game.
in front of my BBs.
Well, that was actually you missed the Imperial target and killed the Perla target by accident, but you did.
Maybe the
Um,
first guy, but you know.
Yeah, then they shot back.
We're supposed
Yeah,
to eat
for
like-
future games, we've already had a discussion in the planning chats about how we're going to continue that night portion, because it does seem like a lot of players like the tracer part, and the other part of the players like the RP part. There's definitely a divide at night between the players who want to do both. So keeping that in mind going forward, making sure that we're keeping the RP people out doing their RP things at dark, because it's harder to walk and stuff, and those with tracers letting them do their tracer thing.
Right.
There's definitely, I can say this without a shadow of a doubt, Mouston's late night shenanigans are going to be a lot different next year.
I'm so excited. If we get to do half of what we've talked about in the planning for that, then
That isn't even half. Gee, I mean, if we,
listen, it's not canon, so don't worry about it.
no, I'm talking about the next RP event.
Oh, even better. even
The
better.
next RP events, but I'm not talking. I won't talk about the Battlefront event at all. In terms of the planning stuff, I'm gonna let.
That's our next episode.
Yeah, that's their part. That's why it's next episode. I'm talking about the RP stuff.
We're here for Echoes Resolve specifically.
Yeah.
So we did get a comment I want to read out loud from Ronan the Carillion, who said in response to the night game stuff, for me, I was very happy I got to play more cards and roleplay shenanigans with my Hut brothers. Hoping we can get some Hut/Black Sun collaborations going. I think that'd be really cool. Crix, do you have any input on, collaborating with these Black Sun scoundrels running around in the Lithia sector?
No, I've never been to the Lithia sector myself, but
a
I
good
have
place.
hired Ronan, and Ronan's been awesome. We love having our casino owner around, and we've had no ill intentions with them. So as of right now, we've been good business partners.
Right on.
I can foresee an alliance, in Lithia at some point in the future.
Like, Ronan's a good dude to do business with. I feel like he's a good middleman.
Just don't buy drinks from him.
Just don't. Yeah, he makes them a little too strong. I've
too
heard.
strong. That Carillion wine.
Yeah. Imperials start getting sloppy, shooting into the air, sobbing out in the open.
Yeah.
Crazy things go down.
I was trying to cover it up. I was trying to, help, but it happened how it happened.
Yeah, there's definitely not video evidence on Pioneer Airsoft. YouTube.com/Pioneer Airsoft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Publicity stunt. Real quick, I want to say, take a quick sponsor break. This episode is brought to you by, the Galactic AAA, or AA. Sorry, Galactic AA, Galactic AA.
Yeah.
They're here to help. We're here to get you clean and sober. So, back to the show. All right. Next up, let's let people raise their hands, and while we get some of the community participation, we got a very active chat. It's going by real quick, so if anyone in the chat wants to raise their hand and talk about their standout moment or tell a quick story of what they really enjoyed.
First volunteer is Calbert Elder, if I pronounced it right.
All right, let's get him up here.
Hey.
Come on up. Where's my mouse? There it is. Invite to speak. Step up, step up. Keep it PG, keep it short.
So, my moment was probably mid to late afternoon, where there was the first afternoon dust up between the Rebs and the Imps. There was a super commando situation in town, and I'm thinking it was probably in conjunction with a large Imperial buildup that I'd been calling in, having seen on the hill southeast of the cantina. Well, with the action in town, I had forgotten about that activity. So when I ran out of the one mag that I had on me at the time, and I was dressed down to pretty much unaffiliated look at that point, doing recon type work, I turn around after having gone non-combat and see about 20 to 25 Imperials swarming towards where I'm at, and think, oh, dang, I'm in a pile of trouble. Fortunately, they don't immediately engage me, and one of them in the lead asks me, "Are you unaffiliated?" Thinking quick, I say, "Oh yeah, unaffiliated," because my jacket that shows I'm a rebel and the rest of my rebel gear is in one of the Connex containers that they're moving towards. And I let him keep on moving that direction, and then decide that I'm gonna just blend in with the rest of stuff and head over to the cantina, which is a non-combat area, and get some water while everything goes down, and just blend in like a good rebel. Get out of the area.
Right on.
That's what I want to hear more of.
It's always the best way to play a rebel. Thank you, Kaibar Eldar, for your stand-up moment. That's So true though. Always the best way to play a rebel is to play the sneaky rebel. You know, the subterfugeous, the unseen, stealthily moving. So
Stealthy.
Yep.
well said. Mark, are you wearing 2 hats right now?
Twice the Empire. Yeah. Respect my double cap authority.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know how to feel. I feel like I'm a no cap and you're over here double capped.
No cap.
I can really mess with you.
Yeah.
I put on an Imperial hat.
Oh. Is this the official confirmation? Perla
is-
works for the Empire.
Oh,
another Perla hat.
exposed.
Oh my god.
Okay, now we're playing TF2.
Oh.
What in the world?
Wow.
What's he gonna put on next?
Sorry, I sat you.
Oh my gosh, my camera's not sitting still for me.
Alrighty.
This
Our next volunteer
Victim.
is Corporal Sloan himself. Come on
It's
up.
going to be
Oh,
private.
Let's
Promote it. Oh my god.
let's get
I
that
hope he hasn't been drinking.
Imperial enlisted men perspective.
Y'all hear me okay?
We can hear. Oh, where's that accent?
Where's the accent?
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you.
Yeah,
Oh,
who's
oh,
this?
oh.
Who stole Corporal Sloan's telecommunicator?
My apologies.
There we go.
So,
There we go. Someone get this
So
clown
I
off the
wanted to-
stage.
I wanted to share a little short bit of my experience, then flow that into a question for all of you.
Please.
So, Battlefield Rhaegor, that was my first event. Absolute blast. Long story short, while we were at Rhaegor, you know, all of the unaffiliated for Battlefront events get sorted to sort of balance the teams. Clan Nox, the Mandalorian trio, ended up reinforcing the Empire, and there was a short bit where the rebels really pushed sort of the main town area, and our defenses kind of fell apart. We had no idea who was in charge or what we were supposed to be doing, so I kind of just started shouting orders in a British accent because I found that people pay attention when I start doing that. And most of the Imperials ended up sort of falling back, but Clan Nox stood with me till the bitter end. We held that town for probably a good 30 minutes or so. So I kind of grafted that into my character of like, all right, Sloan does not like Mandalorians, but Clan Nox, they're all right in his book. And at Rhaegor, Clan Nox ended up in a situation where they attacked a group of Imperial super commandos right when I happened to be with those super commandos. So we ended up in a little bit of a skirmish. They ended up reviving me and apologizing, and I gave this very scathing rant about how they were traitors to the Empire, and you couldn't trust a Mandalorian ever in your entire life, and went on and on for a little bit. Not even 10 minutes later, I ended up stationed at a road checkpoint right as Nox needed to get through this road checkpoint, and Skarga Nox pulled off probably the most impressive quick draw I've ever seen in an airsoft game. His gun went from holstered to drawn, and I got shot right above the left eye, all within the span of maybe half a second. It was absolutely
go.
brilliant. I've got it on film. You'll be seeing it in a future video from me. So that's affecting my character going forward, and I just love the way that these kind of events just naturally unfold. And I've got growing beef with people, and me and my family always joke, like, how do I go back to work and explain to my coworkers that I have beef with the Mandalorian clan now? It's just, it's impossible to make them understand.
Yeah.
So the question I want to flow that into is, I understand that the Battlefront events we don't really consider canon for roleplay events. So this upcoming Rhaegor garrison will be our first roleplay event out here. And we did do quite a bit of RP at Battlefront Rhaegor. So how much of that RP from Battlefront is going to be carrying over into Garrison?
So when we
Raincloud, I
say
think
that it's
we,
not
at some
canon,
point,
we
should make
mean
an
like
official
the
statement.
overarching story of the event.
Yeah.
What happens to you and your
Yeah.
character is up to you, man. If you had a really good interaction with somebody,
No,
and
I
you're
am-
like,
I
that
am
is going to
talking
shape
on
my
the-
character, then it's canon to you.
Right, I'm talking on the macro level, you know, all the kerfuffle with the gather worms and stuff like that.
The macro level stuff, it's not considered canon. You know, we don't go into these events saying, okay, well, the Empire and the Rebels just had a big non-stop fight here. You know, I'm sure the Gather worms will make an appearance. The Battlefront events are a good test bed for systems, for ideas, So I'm sure we can, going forward, know the Gabberworms will probably be a pretty key part of
They played a role
Rhaegar
at Echo.
Garrison event.
There were people running around with Gabberworms
Yeah,
on
they
them
popped
at
up
Echo.
at Echoes.
So us saying that
So-
Battlefront and Planetary Garrison are not canon, I don't think that's really a hard and fast rule. If there's something that pops up at one of those
Planetary-
events that's just like so good that it just happens to stay in the community, or the community latches onto it so much, there's no reason to say it didn't happen.
Garrisons
Right.
are canon. Planetary
Yeah,
Garrisons
Planetary-
are canon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Planetary
yeah.
garrisons are part of the main
I
storyline.
was- I
Battlefronts
was-
are not canon. That's our opportunity to pull out, like, if Chris wants to pull out his Vader costume, or if you guys want to pull out like a costume that doesn't fit the timeline. That's what Battlefronts are for. And
If you
we
wanna
can
swap
pull-
factions. You know.
swap factions. I mean, the Battlefront series is also a time for us to pull out random goofy stories that don't pertain to the overall story. So it's a huge opportunity to have a different type of fun story
Yeah.
without lasting repercussions.
Yeah.
That's the way I try to explain it. Because the actions you take out of Battlefront will 9 times out of 10 will have 0 repercussions for a story event.
Yeah.
Because we try to not shove it that way, so you can have those goofier moments.
Yeah. Like I
If
said,
that
I don't
makes
think
sense.
that's necessarily a hard and fast rule, though. If something so awesome happens, it's probably going to stick around in the community's little zeitgeist of their story and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like
the
the
community,
Gaberworms,
to the community
those
is
were so
canon,
fun.
but
They
to the
stuck
overall
around.
story, it may
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
The Gaberworms will be. The planetary lore stays the same.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I didn't manage to make it to Rhaegar. I had to quit last minute, so some of the stuff that happened, I'm not aware
Well,
of.
there was a lot of
which is-
roleplay that was forced into Rhaegar, so
That's-
it felt a little more involved than just a Battlefront event. So that's
Yeah.
why, like Sloan, with that being
that's-
his first encounter, he kind of got a roleplay heavy Battlefront. So yeah.
which is interesting because the Battlefront is supposed to be more combat. But
I think we're gonna see more roleplay out there. But we do need to move on.
Yeah.
We need to move
Yeah.
on.
yeah,
Crix, do you have any words to say before we move on from this, or are you good and happy?
Cricket. It's
I'm
cricket.
happy. He had mentioned for Planetary Garrison whether that would be more akin to the role play, and that's the goal. Is it's going to be, think of it more like Echoes Resolve than Battlefront Rhaegar. So it will be a continuous event, no breaks in combat, and then we will have a night game.
It'll be our
that's
first
going to
4-day event.
What? Oh.
Oh,
Sorry, I forgot. I cannot just be saying stuff. I forgot.
come
People
on, man.
listen to me. I can't be doing that anymore.
I'm not gonna lie, my heart skipped a beat really
Yeah.
quick.
I'll be honest, because I missed the last admin meeting and you had me panicked for a half second.
I got all excited. I got really
Everybody
excited.
clip
Yeah,
this,
the first 3
everybody clip
days are at Crix's house, though, so we're all gonna hang out there.
Hey, you know what? I'm okay with that.
You are
Yeah.
teasing me, naughty. You are teasing me.
All right. All right. Thank you, Sloan. We're gonna pass you back to your drinking buddy, Ronan. Thank you for joining us. All right, we got another hand raised already. We got TB504 waiting to come up, so we're gonna pull him up. Anyone else in the audience, if you got the bare minimum to say, feel free to raise your hand, get up here, let us know your thoughts, feelings, and what you want. Let your voice be heard. All right, TB, what is your standout moment? from Echoes Resolve?
Yeah, so again, Scout Trooper here. The standout moment was the morning of the second day, so Sunday.
You're part of the special
just-
squad.
Yes, but it was the special mission that morning,
Yep.
which I believe is on film, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's on Pioneer
Part of it
Airsoft's video. Us walking up the hill. It was towards the end of that. I was, I think, near the blaster shop, and my squad leader's like, "Hey, go check the woods. Make sure they're not. Make sure secure a perimeter as we're leaving in there." And I just start walking in the woods, and I'm just just patrolling. And all of a sudden, I see 2 feet rustle, and I just look over there, and I just see 2 rebels just in the tree line. I start opening up on them because that was our ROE, and it just turned into a massive firefight, and it was probably my top moment because it was just brutal. We didn't see anybody. We just lit the woods up. So yeah, that was my standout moment.
I
Awesome.
can add to some perspective to that because I got to watch that fight from the backside as the Perla guys watched on and watched the Empire move into the trees and watching rebels run the other way from the trees into the next bit of trees as the Empire pushed in was pretty cool to see.
There's a
So-
non-zero chance I was that rebel. If it's what I'm thinking of, that might have been
I was the one
me.
who shot first. I will wholeheartedly admit it. Because I just
Yeah,
saw y'all there. I don't think y'all saw me just yet, and I'm just like,
If it's the one I'm thinking of, was it on that like hill in front of town by
Yeah.
the entrance to the field?
yes.
Okay, yeah, that was me. That was me. So I had the thought when I saw you guys running towards, like, surely they're not going to push up into these thick trees in that scout trooper armor. And then you guys did. So we just kept running further and further into the woods. But that was
Yeah,
that
it
was
was really
awesome.
cool. That was a lot of fun.
I
Yeah.
do want to thank you for volunteering to be a part of that mission. It was, I thought it looked like it went well. So thank you for that.
All right,
Oh,
thank you.
yeah.
Cut him off. I'm sorry, TP54. If we got no one else waiting to speak, then we are at about
I
2
can
hours.
keep talking if you want me to.
We're
Yeah.
already at 2 hours.
All right.
It's so easy to just keep talking when we're talking
is.
DCW because I think we all love
Yeah.
it so much.
I could
Yeah.
But I
for-
think that's where we gotta start wrapping it up. It feels like we barely covered anything, and I could talk for
Yeah.
4 more hours.
Yeah,
straight.
when
I was hoping to
you,
talk on like faction objectives and what got accomplished.
yeah,
Like that's another episode, I guess.
when you guys
Yeah.
brought up
Part
wanting to
2.
keep the podcast at like an hour and a half, I kind of giggled. Was like, that's just
Yeah.
not gonna happen. 2 hours is like the
Yeah.
shortest we're gonna get this.
All right,
have a
well,
hard
we'll get.
time.
Listen, Lord Chef wants to talk, and that
Yeah.
guy's awesome. So we'll
I
get
feel
one
it.
more.
Yes.
Lord Chef will. He'll close us out, or maybe not. I don't know.
I just invited him.
Hold on.
There he is.
Did I do it?
You did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yo, what's up, dudes?
What's going on, man?
So it looks like we're doing this again. Another week down. This is awesome.
Hopefully, it'll be a regular occurrence.
Yeah, I saw that y'all were posting that y'all were trying to do it every like bi-weekly or whatever.
We
I
were
think that's a
going
good.
to go bi-weekly. Yeah, this just happened to work out because of some availabilities. Yeah.
From here on,
Awesome.
it will be bi-weekly. So
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Raincloud, thanks again. I'm glad you could join us, and not only that, buy us the brownies and stuff. But
That's right. You were at the.
Me?
Yeah.
yeah, I was in it. Yeah, that was so cool. So I went from the gala, and then we went to see the. Sorry about the dogs, guys. Sorry. Went to go see the Night Hunters thing, and that was so cool because I didn't know that my crew was the ones playing with the red beams. So when we first went down there, they were going on and went on to like win that thing. I didn't even know that was them. So that I thought that was really cool. Then the Knights came back to win second. So I saw that. That was really cool. They were camping next to us. So I think maybe getting some of those goodies from the Empire helped them get to the finals. But that was so much fun, dude. Watching it like with the full moon, it was just the right amount of light with everything. I mean, I thought it was so awesome. Yeah, I could see what you're talking about with the night vision. Like if it wasn't a full moon, it would have been so hard to watch. But with those tracers and stuff, that was so cool.
Yeah.
And appreciate everybody joining, doing everything. Can't wait to see y'all in the next couple weeks. And let's keep this thing going. I mean, this is so funny. We did this like a month ago, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and we'll be talking about it till we die.
Continue to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Survivor's Endeavor was 3 years ago, and I could talk about it for 24 hours straight.
Oh my
Me too.
God.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The talk will
So
taper
much happened with that
down
one
about 2 months before the next event for about a week, and then it's
because
gonna
we'll be so
skyrocket.
tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome,
Thank
guys.
you,
Well,
Lord.
hey,
Chef.
y'all keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You
Will
know.
do.
Thank you,
Will do.
Chef.
Keep doing what you're doing. See y'all in a
Chef.
couple weeks, guys. Peace out, everybody.
All right. That was our last guest. We are about maybe over 2 hours, not entirely sure.
We're just.
Yeah, I'm
under
seeing people in
two.
the chat saying 24-hour stream. Listen, not anytime soon, but I think doing a GCW charity drive, like a real charity drive, could be something to look into.
Yep.
I would be down to sacrifice years off my life to sit here for 24 hours and
If we can get
Try to
it
stay
where we
awake.
consistently are
Alright.
hitting like 100 viewers, I think we could pull it off.
yeah.
Doing a charity drive.
Hear me out. We do a Battlefront 2 stream with that while
That'd
we're
be cool,
doing the
yeah.
podcast, so that'll keep us busy. And we
Yeah.
should keep a 24-hour server running
rotate
So I'm
people
just-
in and out. Yeah.
I'll let you guys know I don't drink coffee. I've had coffee once or twice in my entire life. So that would be a time for everyone to see what I do with coffee, which is getting really energetic.
Oh,
You're just
God.
raw dog in life.
Yeah,
don't do
I
no
don't drink
caffeine?
coffee.
I don't think we
I
can
considered
handle
it at
Cloud
Echoes.
on chemical stimulants.
Can we get Raincloud like a monster and 3 Red Bulls and just see what happens?
Have you seen what is it?
Yeah, that'd
Yes
be
Man. Have you ever had Red Bull? I had Red Bull for the first time last night. Red Bull. That's gonna be
Yeah, I
Raincloud.
think it could be fun too, where like we have like donation goals where
Yeah.
if we hit certain like, we want to raise $1,000 for what for St. Jude or something. So if you donate $50, Raincloud takes a shot of coffee, takes an espresso.
And that's not the realm of possibility.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, the community as a whole raised like $600 for community members whose house burned down a couple years
that's
ago.
true.
So
That
we
was
have
what-
done charity in the
Yeah.
past. This would be a little more
I think that's
involved.
something we should definitely keep on the back burner.
Yeah.
If we raise $1,000, Raincloud himself will tell you who is force sensitive.
I actually know.
We have a
Decent.
secret list of players we randomly decide are force sensitive.
Top donor gets to play as
we
a
don't
Jedi
know.
for 5 minutes.
You donate $500 personally.
A
given
Mandalorian
one life as a
clone
Jedi.
Jedi. You get to be a Mandalorian
Top
clone
donor.
Jedi for 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay, hold on.
Let's check every box.
Don't steal my character idea. How dare
Ah!
you?
I saw that
Original
secret
OC, do not
document.
steal.
I saw your secret
If you
document.
donate $1,000, you get to go on a date with Crix Haran. You heard it here first. His wife's
Damn,
okay
look
with
at my
it.
wallet.
You can go on a date. Yeah, we'll have everyone donating. How many people are in the server? We'll make that much in thousands.
And he
So-
will wear just the Chewie head.
Oh yeah.
Just the Chewie head.
That's something we'll keep in mind. That charity stream. Anyway, I think that's about it. We're gonna wrap it up. Do we have cool outro music or a cool?
We don't have cool outro music, but we have an outro panel. But that's
Roll the text.
it.
Roll the text.
Well, tech.
We can start like
Alrighty.
beatbox or something.
Thank you for coming to the
Raincloud,
Galactic
start
Civil War
beatboxing.
podcast. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next podcast. Stay
ya.
tuned for
See you
the
later,
topic.
guys.